So, when I was applying for foreign law firm interviews, in fact, my interest, I'll share this from how I started getting interested in corporate law. And that was from an internal moot I participated in my third year at law school. And we also studied companies that year. And I just started doing a couple of law firm internships. I interned at AZB, Luthra, and that just started getting me interested. But the path was very unstructured, but some of the ways were, so I would read a few business books. There was this book called Cold Steel, which was about the acquisition of Arcelor by Mittal Steel. Okay, now it ends up romanticizing the deal and the transaction in a certain way that doesn't have legal provisions, but you actually understand how someone is interested in something. For example, certain aspects of the acquisition of the acquisition of Arcelor were completed before European Union had a new competition law which was going to come into force. Now the people who were involved in this deal, they knew once this competition law is into force, we are going to have a hard time completing this deal. But they hurried it up before this came into force. Now this was a strategic move. Now when I read that, it became clear for me how knowing the legal landscape or what is about to come beforehand makes sense, and I can apply this knowledge for other kinds of laws. So now I can think that when SEBI says I will with that they will, like when say GDPR is going to come into force from the next from May 25th, I think approximately that's the date. So now I can look at, okay, how will the compliance change? That what are the actions businesses have to take? I will not look at only what GDPR says. This is the General Data Protection Regulation of European Union, which most of you may have heard somewhere in the keywords. So my automatic thinking became from then that how does it impact the business? Like what needs to change about it? And how exactly is it different from what was there earlier? Now, there are many articles online which will tell you how it is different, but it might not be really convincing. If you look at the old body of law and the new body of law, you'll really need to understand it for yourself by going through it. How and what is the exact difference? And you will realize that different online sources don't exactly articulate it in the same way. And when you understand it for yourself, that's when you are clear that this concept you understand, you own up, and then you can give anybody any kind of advice on what to do because you've done this work yourself, this background preparatory work. Now this is an example of what kind of tools you can use. So I started with a random business book. Then I read a book of 𝘂𝗽𝗀𝗶𝗃𝗃s, which at that time was not available in India, but from Flipkart I imported it, and that actually showed how the law firm was built. And 𝘂𝗽𝗀𝗃𝗃s was basically, it is one of the world's biggest American law firms, and it's highly profitable and it's very reputed, and it's damn hard for an Indian to get there. There is one of my seniors who's working there. But so 𝘂𝗽𝗀𝗃𝗃s grew in an era where there was a certain kind of a new kind of takeover which was being done by by the predators. Like corporate America had a certain set of people who created a new financing instrument so that even people who don't have a lot of money, they can acquire companies, and this law firm helped them with that, and that's how it grew. Now that really started inspiring me about the kind of impact these kind of inventions can have. Okay, so you would see like a huge multi-billion dollar company being acquired by someone whose net worth is only a few $1 million, merely because a new financial instrument was created. This was called a junk bond, and this company specialized in this kind of issue, a junk bond and a takeover war. Okay, this law firm specialized in advice of this nature. Now these are the connections that I found which actually inspired me about how corporate law in India works. Okay, so when I look at SEBI takeover regulations, it's not going in my head that I want to understand takeover regulations. What's going on in my head is that which are the companies that are what's going on in my head is that how will this process of one company acquiring another, how will that be complete? Okay, so I'm just looking at it like a movie, and I'm reading the regulations and fitting in the puzzle when I read the regulations. So the stories the blocks, the skeleton structure of the story is there in my head, that one company needs to acquire another company. Now, how is that going to happen? I'm not, and then I look at the SEBI regulations. If I did not understand this and I just went through the SEBI takeover regulations, then I would not understand the big picture. And that's when things get really boring. Okay. And this happened a lot of times. There would be these huge documents. I was interning at AZB and I would have to proofread. But I got good also with them, but I could never understand the whole commercial intent at play. But it was much later when I actually started working at Trilegal, and then I started speaking to entrepreneurs a little in college also, and then later after I quit Trilegal, a lot more. And then I started designing courses. That's when this whole idea of what somebody's commercial intent is, that started shaping up. Commercial intent really means that what does a particular player want to commercially achieve in business. Okay. It could be a Mukesh Ambani who wants to make a ton of money, who wants to enter into a new sector. It could be his company which wants to gain market power, or have more profits, or have a new breakthrough product. So when I started appreciating that, it got a lot easier for me to start understanding corporate law. So commercial intent is what you need to figure out. Now you can use articles in Pink or business newspapers to get a hint of that, but you will need to do more work. Like, you will see one day that, okay, Aircel, for example, has bought these many thousand towers from this other company, and you might want to think that this was a telecom company. Why is it buying towers? What is the connection? And then you might actually get into what the telecom tower business is about. How do these companies do this? When you do that, that's when your connection with what you're learning in corporate law starts getting established. And that's the connection you want to keep cementing and strengthening.